Carney, who at the time was the head of the Bank of England, gave a speech and at
Yeah.
the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City, Wyoming event, Jackson Hole event, which said that we are nearing a point of currency conflict. And we need to get our minds wrapped around what does currency conflict look like? What tends to happen during currency conflicts? And how can central banks get themselves ready for currency conflict? Background on that, apparently no one knew he was giving the speech. It was the last speech he ever gave as head of the Bank of England. He didn't run it past anyone. Everyone was kind of silent and shocked in the audience when he gave the speech of, the dollar is nearing its end. And usually when currencies change, we have a world war. So can please the central banks who are in the room here and the governments that support them, can they get together and figure out what are we doing? So we don't have a lot of people die. And so those two speeches came out about 4 days from each other in late August 2019. And they've been a real foundation of how we think about what we build. And so when we think about what we're building here at Radius, one is we've been laser focused on building a linearly scalable smart contract execution network that's effectively free. We are in the multiple millions of transactions per second in our testnet, and we're running about 10 million transactions per dollar. So we're nearing free. And as we add more compute, it tends to scale better. We're really excited about that. The most exciting thing is the use case, which is if we can linearly scale value transfer, we can fundamentally change the incentive model of the internet. I don't know about how your team works, but I spend most of my time on the internet now on Claude or OpenAI or Cursor. So what does the attention economy look like if we're not clicking and eyeballing? How does the internet incentivize itself? And can we actually use stablecoins as a mechanism to free ourselves from that hamster wheel? And so as we think about how we describe ourselves, one of the things we start talking about is letting humans do human things again, which is, can you actually get, as a father of 3, can I get my kids away from the attention economy that Zuckerberg so wants them to have and be attached to, right? Is there a way to incentivize the internet that doesn't involve eyeballs and clicks and swipes? That's really, really exciting. And we think stablecoins are a mechanism for that. Now, the buzzword you're going to hear about this is agents, right? Is if agentic systems or actors on top of AI models can use compute, use data, use inference to do things for you or do things amongst themselves. And generally speaking, that would be buying data, buying compute, buying inference, or selling those three. Can they do so in a way that has a native currency? And this is where kind of the Mark Carney thing comes in, which is whatever currency figures out to be the mechanism by which this economy buys and sells things from each other and replaces AdWords. That will probably be the default language or the default model of this new version of the internet. And that's where we get really excited, right? So, this won't, we're already hearing about OpenAI working on ad models, which for me is a failure. Which for me is repeating the failure. And we're working like hell and sprinting like hell. We raised our last round from Lightspeed to stop OpenAI from using an ad model, because then we're just attention economy all over again. And we can't have that. We have to have agents doing this stuff with authorization, with permissioning, with identity, so we can get away from our phones and get away from our screens. That 20-year experience or 25-year experience of being attached to a screen is really suboptimal. And we think stablecoins can do this. Now, we do think there's a bet that Bitcoin might be able to do it, because our whole team is big Bitcoiners. It's really hard for Bitcoin to scale. One of the inventor of Bitcoin Lightning was part of Project Hamilton. So we know him well, and we really love the idea of Bitcoin being a censorship-proof way to do this. But our bet is on USD stablecoins. But if USD stablecoins are not this mechanism, there's a non-zero chance that another actor comes into play. And the only actor with liquidity to do so is China, right? And one thing we've seen for the last 15 years is China does not play what I'll call standard geoeconomic games. They play asymmetrically on geoeconomics. The ECNY is currently in the backend code of multiple central banks around the world via the Enbridge project, right? If you go to the BIS, they talk about Enbridge being the future solution of central bank money. And Enbridge is just ECNY, PBOC code. And that they're doing the smart thing. They're not asking permission at multinational meetings to do something. They're just building really good code. They're hiring really smart people, and they're solving the problem. And so the other thing, we're very shameless, pro-Americans in this team. The dollar's a good thing. America's a good thing. We do believe that. And so someone's going to fill that vacuum with AdWords. Either it's going to be some open AI model of AdWords, in my mind, is going to suck us right back into the screens, or it's going to be USD stablecoins or ECNY. Alternatively, it's Bitcoin. I'm okay with the Bitcoin model, but I'd love it to be the USD model because I think there's a really, really interesting future of that. So that's where our heads are. That's where our focus is. If we can linearly scale the networks that support stablecoins and make them effectively free so that you have about the net amount of API calls per day be the same as agentic interactions, you can start getting natural markets for data, compute, and inference, and that's super exciting. So that's what we're doing. That's our sole focus. We're going to ride over the cliff going for that. That's our vision, and so we're going for it.